Hey everybody, welcome to Crystal Kyle and Friends. I am not with Crystal physically in the room today. This is only, I think, the second time that this has happened, and we've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Right? Over 50 weeks.
Throughout the pandemic, and to only, have a few little interruptions, this one by choice.
Yeah, last one was Nina Turner, was when I wasn't there. I don't remember why, but yeah, I wasn't there for that. And another phenomenal guest today. Apparently, we got a streak going with phenomenal guests when I'm not physically in studio. But Chris Hedges is going to be with us today.
I mean, let's be honest. All of our guests are phenomenal. So
very true. Very true. I went back and watched some Chris Hedges stuff the other day, and man, that guy spits fire.
He tells the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Consequences of that be damned. I've been reading his new book, Our Class, which is a wonderful book about his time teaching in a prison and what that experience was like. So lots and lots to get into with him.
Yeah, another interesting thing I noticed about him, there are not many people, I don't know if he has like a daily podcast or like a weekly podcast or anything, but there's very few people who don't have that, who pull like really amazing numbers, and he's one of them. So he's saying things that are so interesting that even if he goes into the wilderness for like a year and comes out, people are like, I want to hear what that guy has to say. So a lot of good stuff to get to with him. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about this clip that popped up on my Twitter feed. Now, I will admit, and I don't think you saw it either, I haven't seen it. I just saw the text in the tweet. So you're really getting like a first time reaction here from you and me. It's about Elon Musk is on some random podcast, forgive me for not knowing the name or caring, and he said something that's pretty silly.
And I was wondering if you could decipher this tweet of yours for me, because I'm not a programmer. You wrote trace route woke _mind _virus. What does that mean?
Okay, so traceroute is a networking command to, so if you want to figure out a path to a particular server or domain, you'd say traceroute, or in Windows, traceRT. That would show you the path to a particular source server, either an IP address or domain name, and it would show you basically all the hops that it goes through, and the latency between each hop. And so
I know some of those words.
Yeah. So traceroute would be like, where did it come from?
Yeah.
Where did the virus come from? What is its origin?
So did this work? Did this command work? Or no? Did you
read the comments. Read the comments and see.
All right.
It is a prevalent mind virus, and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization.
Okay, so that was really weird.
It's a little hard to follow.
It is hard to follow, but apparently at the beginning he says woke _something, and then at the end.
So they're asking him to decipher a tweet, and apparently the tweet said trace route woke _mind _virus. And what he explains is that trace route is a technical programmer, person way of saying, like, where did this come from? So he's saying, where did this woke mind virus come from? And then he goes on to say he believes it to be arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization.
Yeah, so let me dive into that, because I'm getting super annoyed with this line of thinking. There are some people who are just permanently stuck in the year 2014 and can't break free of it. Listen, I'm second to nobody in criticizing what I think is the excesses of cancel culture or wokeness. I'm very, not very famously, because I don't know how many views the video has, maybe 80,000 or something like that, but I've defended Ann Coulter for being protested at some college campus. I thought she had a right to speak. Same with Ben Shapiro. So this is something that I have talked about, and I do think is important, and I don't like the authoritarian strain on the left, and I don't like the authoritarian strain on the right. Now, the point that these people seem to always miss is that there's also cancel culture on the right. I've been through it a million times, but the best example is the original cancel culture story of the Dixie Chicks. They had their careers absolutely ruined because they said the Iraq war is bad and they came out against George W. Bush. And the list goes on and on. Little Nas X with the Satan shoe, and then the governor of North Dakota came out and said, well, he should be canceled over this, when she positioned herself as, I'm the anti-cancel culture person. I can go on and on and on.
Well, the Chicks live long enough to be canceled by both sides, right? They get canceled by the right, and then they, change their name from Dixie Chicks to the Chicks, so it all comes around.
Okay, I was unaware of that, and I mean, I don't really care. I think it's stupid no matter where it's coming from, but to say that this is one of the biggest threats to modern civilization might literally be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, stop and look at the landscape right now. So we have climate change. Anybody with a functioning brain and eyes sees that this catastrophe and this apocalyptic scenario is speeding up right in front of us. I mean, whether it's an increase in extreme weather events, Tornado Alley shifting, and all of a sudden in December we're getting tornadoes in, what state was it?
Kentucky. And Illinois. I mean, it was across 5 different states.
5 different states. We got 65-degree days in Washington, D.C. in late December. I mean, so climate change is one thing that's very apocalyptic. Now, if you think, oh, whatever, it's warmer, who cares? Well, when there's wars over water, you're going to care. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that's one thing. The other thing is, now we're talking, the threat of World War III and a nuclear war, I think is real as a heart attack, because you have Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin on with a tense standoff in Ukraine, and in the nuclear age, we can't afford a World War III, because if you have a World War III, it's game, set, match on all of us. Millions of people die in a war, and then you have a nuclear winter after that. And these things, the idea that, like, we're safe, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sure they thought that before World War I, and I'm sure they thought that before World War II. After World War I, people thought, we're never going to do this again, and then World War II came around. So this idea, everybody's complacent, everybody's relaxed, everybody thinks like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Look, we're ruled by idiots, and idiots do idiotic things. And sometimes that escalates, and sometimes you end up having a hot war. We cannot afford that in the nuclear age. We cannot afford these tensions over Ukraine. We cannot afford people going on MSNBC or CNN and saying, I wouldn't take a nuclear strike on Russia off the table. We can't afford idiots going on Tucker Carlson and saying, I want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls. And this is something that's going on right now. Another issue, which is probably the biggest issue because it affects all other issues, is the political corruption that we have in this country. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have a government that's just flat out an oligarchy and a kleptocracy, and it serves corporate interests and it serves billionaires. And, you have half of working people in this country making $30,000 a year or less. You have 27 million people without health insurance. You have medical bills as the top cause of bankruptcy. These are the real concerns to people who are serious, who are following these stuff, and who are working, who are regular people. Now, Elon Musk likes to fancy himself some sort of man of the people or whatever. Are you kidding me? Now, the other day he went on Twitter and he said something along the lines of, in case you were wondering, I'm paying $11 billion in taxes. Now, the whole point of that is supposed to be like, this is ridiculous, this is government overreach. Don't you feel bad for me? No, I don't, because you made $36 billion in one day not too long ago. Your net worth is $261 billion. By the way, a few years ago, ProPublica came out with that report. He paid a true tax rate of about 3% not that long ago. Then he learned about the tax avoidance scheme of buy, borrow, and die, and he paid 0 taxes a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And so when he comes out and says, I paid $11 billion in taxes, you're not making your point. You're making our point. Am I supposed to feel bad that you're sitting on $250 billion worth of wealth? We're supposed to sit there and say, oh, poor Elon Musk. And what does he do? Deflects the conversation away and goes right to the woke mind virus is the biggest problem facing modern civilization. Your head is up your ass. But you know what? I love it because social media and new media is now giving us this ability to see how dumb and out of touch the elites are. And that's exactly what's going on with Elon Musk. Nobody would have known that this guy who's a billionaire is a colossal idiot unless he came out there and reminded us of it every day. And with the democratization and everybody having a voice and, social media being what it is, he reminds us every day that that's exactly what he is.
I haven't honestly listened to a lot of Elon Musk interviews. He was also like fairly inarticulate in that moment. Is that consistent, or is he normally more able to express himself?
I listened to him when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and it was very clear to me that he's not the best communicator.
Okay.
And what's funny is that his stans view that as actually like
a sign of deep intelligence. Yeah.
A sign of deep intelligence, because they think, well, maybe he's
just operating on a different level, and
right. He's either on the spectrum or whatever, or I'm sure he's a savant, and so his brain, like even Joe Rogan thinks like, oh, his brain works in a way that normal people's brains don't work. And I remember Joe asking him like, well, what's it like to be you? And he's like, it's crazy. My mind never stops. Bro, you're like a 14-year-old Reddit shit poster. You got $4.9 billion in government subsidies as you decry government overreach or whatever the fuck. And your daddy had like an emerald mine or a diamond mine or some shit in South Africa. I don't want to hear it. You were born on third
run very honorably.
Trump. He's exactly like Donald Trump in that sense.
You know, what it reminded me of listening to him and to that extremely terrible take, which, you know, he has many terrible political takes. It kind of reminded me of when Ben Carson started his presidential campaign, because here's someone who is, you know, in the medical field, a legitimate genius, you know, did things that were extraordinarily groundbreaking, was celebrated for them, you know, really on a plane by himself in that field of neurology. And then when it comes to politics, he's just, you know, everything that he thinks about it is completely stupid and wrong. And it sort of reminded me of that. Like, listen, I could believe that Elon is a genius at certain things that he does. That doesn't mean that his takes on politics are going to be right or profound or good or worth listening to in any way. And so that was one of the things that I was thinking about. I mean, obviously you lay out the total absurdity with everything that's going on. Climate change, democracy crisis, poverty, famine, war, that you would think that wokeness was arguably the biggest threat to civilization, the biggest problem of our time. It's just totally ludicrous and absolutely insane. You know, the other thing that's really interesting here is that I don't understand why people who criticize elites in a lot of ways, and then they don't see how some of the people that they lionize and revere are also part of that class. And he is very much part of that class. So his whole thing about, oh, well, I paid, you know, 11 billion or whatever it was in taxes. The point isn't what you deign to pay this year. It's that we shouldn't be dependent on the benevolence of a class of overlords to fund basic public services. That's the problem. And if you don't understand that, like, clearly you're not the genius as advertised.
Okay, and not only that, the $11 billion in taxes, if you actually crunch the numbers on it, is a lower percentage than somebody who makes like $400,000 a year, some surgeon, some doctor, some attorneys, probably somebody who makes $250,000 a year. It's a lower percentage. It goes back to the old thing Warren Buffett challenged all CEOs in America to do. He was like, if you can show me you pay a higher tax rate as a percentage than your secretaries do who make $80,000 a year, $60,000 a year, I'll give you $1 million of my own money. And nobody was able to collect because they don't. They have an army of lawyers and lobbyists and whatever, and they find all these loopholes, some legal, some not. And Elon Musk does the same thing. And just because the raw number sounds like a lot, all of a sudden, you know, his stands are like, oh, God, you're paying so much in taxes. My heart bleeds for you, billionaire who barely has a problem on this fucking planet. Are you kidding me? Compare his problems to some other people's problems.
What did you think about Time making him Person of the Year, most influential person of the year?
So, I mean, on the one hand, I think it's really silly, but on the other hand, there's no value judgment associated with being Person of the Year. So It's not like they're saying this is a good person. They made Hitler Person of the Year one year.
Right.
So, you know, I don't really care that much. But yeah, when I first saw it, I rolled my eyes. And I honestly, to be fair, I even rolled my eyes when I saw Simone Biles was the Athlete of the Year.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get that you sat out. I'm not saying I want to force you to go in there and do it, but you sat out. You sat out. That's like making Tiger Woods Athlete of the Year when his leg was shattered and he was laying in bed all year.
Yeah.
He's not the Athlete of the Year. He was laying in bed.
Yeah.
So I just think it's still funny enough. It's almost like that's the sort of like political correctness and wokeness to put Simone Biles there and Elon Musk there, and that's the same sort of shit that Elon decries. But it's like, are you really Person of the Year, or are you just like you got a bunch of stands and a huge Twitter following, and so now you're made Person of the Year?
I think there's a decent case to be made for him being most influential person of the year, just because I think there's a decent case for the richest person on the planet to be most influential person of the year every year, just because money is so determinative. There is no doubt. And especially in a year when, you know, billionaires saw their wealth skyrocket. I don't think it's crazy to say, well, this guy who's on top of all the billionaires is the most influential person of the year. But my bottom line on all of this is, you know, as people who are critical of the sort of overly woke and the obsession with that and the cancellation of people and the lack of forgiveness and the censorship and those sorts of like directions that you see both on the right and the left, this is so profoundly unhelpful because it's so caricaturish. And there are far too many people who use their critique of wokeness to mask all of the other much, much larger problems that are going on. A perfect example of that, Kyle, you mentioned that Tucker segment where that dude, Jesse Kelly, was like, the problem with our military is wokeness and we need guys who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls. That whole segment, the topic of it was the problem of wokeness in the military. Okay, not the problem of lying to us for decades in Afghanistan, not the problem of drone strikes, mass killing civilians and people lying. No, not those problems. The problem of wokeness in the military was what they were exercised about this evening. So again, and look, in fairness to Tucker, he has been critical of some of the other excesses of the military, but oftentimes it's used as a critique to mask other bigger problems that are going on. And it ultimately makes people who do have, what I would consider to be a reasoned and nuanced take and critique of over wokeness, it makes everybody easy to caricature and put in the you're silly and ridiculous category.
Yeah, and allow me to respond real quick on the Tucker point. No credit to Tucker. You lose all your anti-war credibility when you have somebody on who's advocating something that's flat out genocidal.
Yes.
You want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls? Imagine he said, I want to sit on a throne of Jewish skulls. How would everybody react? No, so there, no anti-war credit. I don't give a fuck if you signal to it in some respects and then you turn around and you're giggling as somebody's advocating something genocidal on your show, all under the guise of wokeness is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you do a segment on the military budget? How about that? We spend more than the next 12 biggest countries combined, and most of them are our allies. We have about 900 military bases around the world. We just spent $7 to $8 trillion over a decade, and nobody made a peep about how much that's going to add to the debt or that's going to add to the deficit. But then when it comes to Build Back Better, which is less than $2 trillion now, we're just like, oh, the deficit, the debt, we can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so beyond that, I just want to go back to something you said about Person of the Year. I get your argument. I think it's a reasonable argument, but I would say Joe Manchin and or Kyrsten Sinema should be Person of the Year because they're really the president. They are the president, and they can control everything that happens in Washington because the Democrats are weak and feckless and corrupt. And then, so the Democratic Party is only as good as its most conservative members. And as we've learned, their most conservative members are Republican light or just Republican. And so I would say that they're probably Persons of the Year because what do? They blocked any and all. I mean, the original $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, you had universal pre-K, you had child care, you had elder care, you had Medicare expansion, you had lower prescription drug prices. They took one look at that and said, no, I'd rather serve my donors. So they went with them.
But Kyle, Kamala Harris told me that Joe Biden is the president and her name is Kamala Harris and she's the vice president. So there you go.
Yeah. Let's not get off on a side tangent here. But anyway.
All right. Let's get to our guest because we want to talk to Chris Hedges about a lot. As we mentioned before, he's author of a new book. It's called Our Class, Trauma and Transformation in an American Prison. Former foreign correspondent for The Times. This man has covered wars in war zones. He's written wonderful books. He's been incredible active. The thing I admire most about Chris is that he has lived his values to the point that it has, cost him his career at points, that it has literally put his life in danger at points. And I don't know how you can't respect someone who's willing to live his values like that. So with all that being said, let's get right to Chris.